Mystery of supersonic airplane Concorde plane crash. Imagine boarding a flight known for its luxury and speed, only to have your journey tragically cut short in less than 2 minutes. This was the fate of Air France Flight 4590, a Concorde jet that became a blazing fireball just moments after takeoff, marking the end of an era for supersonic travel and leaving behind a haunting mystery. The passengers on Air France Flight 4590, which was scheduled to depart from Paris and arrive in New York, boarded the aircraft early on the morning of July 25, 2000, and settled in for what was expected to be a lengthy flight on a supersonic aircraft. Unfortunately, their flight lasted only a little over 2 minutes. The supersonic jet crashed into a hotel in Gonesse, France, just after it had lifted off, resulting in the deaths of all 109 persons living on board, as well as 4 people who were on the ground. An alloy strip made of titanium was misplaced by a Continental airplane that was heading to Newark and using the same runway. This occurred 5 minutes before airplane 4590 was scheduled to take off. According to the standard operating procedure for a Concorde flight, a thorough inspection of the runway is performed before takeoff. However, this was not carried out perhaps because the flight was already delayed by an hour. A fragment of this debris from the Continental flight caused one of the Concorde's left tires to become cut and burst when Flight 4590 was in the process of climbing into the air. During the acceleration of the aircraft down runway 26R, this tire broke off and a piece of it collided with the underside of the wing, which is where fuel tank 5 was situated. The rupture of the tank occurred before the tire impact because of a pressure wave that occurred inside the tank. The fuel began to stream out of the tank and lit on fire. Flames were hanging from the left wing of the Concorde as it rose off the runway. This occurred because the Concorde had already attained a velocity that prevented it from coming to a safe stop by the end of the runway. Some great photographs have been taken that depict this remarkable moment, a moment that resulted in the loss of 113 lives, a sum of $125 million, and the previously brilliant reputation of a truly remarkable airliner. An overview of the background information regarding the root cause analysis of the Concorde incident. Supersonic commercial air travel may trace its origins back to the 1950s and 1960s, the same period that witnessed the spaceflight competition between the United States of America and the Soviet Union during the Cold War, which resulted in the entry of a man into space. At the same time as the superpowers of the Cold War were competing with one another to conquer the stars, Britain and France were setting their sights on the skies to make air travel faster than the speed of sound, faster than any commercial trip that had ever flown, attainable. The United States of America, France, Britain, and the Soviet Union all experimented with the concept of supersonic travel in the latter half of the 1950s. By the early 1960s, British and French firms had produced designs that were ready to go to construction. However, the expense of such an ambitious project proved to be too expensive for either company to execute on their own. The majority of the funding for these projects came from their respective governments. Therefore, in 1961, British Aerospace and Aerospatiale, which is a French company, collaborated to build and develop the project. The development of the project was negotiated not as a commercial deal between the various firms, but rather as an international treaty between the nations. The treaty was signed in 1962. It is because of this accord that the Concorde was given its name. The word Concorde in French, which is pronounced Concorde in English, implies agreement, harmony, or union. At the Paris Air Show in 1969, the same year that their maiden test flight took place, 2 prototypes were exhibited to the public for the first time. The building of these prototypes began in 1965. January 1976 was the month that Concorde celebrated its first flight for commercial purposes. Even though this achievement was remarkable in and of itself, for the French and the British, it had always been a symbol of something even more significant. A way for the two nations that emerged from the Second World War in desperate search of new sources of identity in a world that had left their greatest glories behind. The Concorde was a symbol of national pride for the post-Imperial countries. It was also a way for the two nations to maintain their status as equals to the two superpowers that emerged from the war. Both countries, but France in particular, needed a source of national pride throughout their history. The finest hour of valor that Britain showed during the war was beginning to fade into history, and the empire was beginning to fall apart. On the other hand, France had been humiliated and occupied during the military conflict. Therefore, the incident that occurred when Flight F-4590 crashed close to Paris was a devastating blow, not only to the brand, but also to the countries that had fostered it. It is often difficult to break down an incident to the level that anyone, not just engineers or individuals who work in the sector, can understand it when discussing incidents of this size that entail not only the loss of life, but also incredibly smart and complicated technology. This is because the incidents involve both complex and sophisticated technology. To accomplish this, root cause analysis is an effective method. We have demonstrated in our coverage of similar incidents in spaceflight that the cause mapping approach to root cause analysis analyzes incidents in terms of a detailed chain of cause and effect. This analyzes incidents in a way that promotes a better general understanding of the event at hand, as well as multiple opportunities to implement solutions that prevent such catastrophes from occurring again. An incident snapshot of the root cause analysis of the Concorde. Using Think Reliability's root cause analysis tool, we constructed our very own cause map to acquire a better understanding of what caused the Concorde to crash. This allowed us to arrange the causes in a specific order and connect them to the objectives of the company. Cause maps are very useful tools for gaining a comprehensive and in-depth knowledge of disasters, such as these. For more information, see Space Maps. Cause maps break incidents down into the specific parts that contributed to them. Our overview of the Concorde event begins with a comprehensive description of the occurrence, which includes what took place before we go on to the question of why it occurred. In the following paragraphs, you will discover a summary of our problem for the Concorde accident. This explanation will include the problem, the time and location, as well as the industry goals that were impacted by the occurrence. In the process of root cause analysis, it is important to define causes by focusing on the goals rather than the problems. When an occurrence is approached from the perspective of aims, it is possible to address various problems that might otherwise arise when one is attempting to unravel the situation. The first benefit is that it prevents a root cause analysis, free-for-all, that does not adhere to the fundamental causes of the occurrence. A proactive approach to problem solving is not achieved when one focuses on problems. Rather, it leads to blame and conflicts. Focusing on problems also takes the team that is undertaking the root cause analysis from the primary aim of the discussion in the first place, which is to create a better future for the organization and everyone involved. Therefore, rather than asking what went wrong, which can evoke a variety of responses, some of which are more productive than others, we begin with our goals about the ideal condition of the airline. Fatalities are a terrible thing. The majority of people would agree that an organization that loses money but does not lose lives is closer to its ideal state than one that saves money but loses lives. This is, however, even though resource loss is also a negative thing. Enjoyed the content? Make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Your support helps us bring you more awesome content. Let us know your thoughts and what you'd like to see next.